education. And so the focus of the presentation is really on when it pertains to students. So I've done well, first off, my name is Dr. Amy Crowley. I am a professor here in the CMHC online program. I fulfill a few roles within our department. I am the student development manager, and I have also been working as the unofficial assistant to Dr. Lori Soley, our director of clinical training. So I'm pretty highly involved with the fieldwork process as well. I tend to teach classes like supervision. And I also teach human sexuality and our addictions class. So I tend to work with students in an academic setting near the end of their programs, while I do have advisees from the very beginning of their programs through graduation. So one of the things that I do as student development plan manager is I work with my team to really support students to be successful in our program. And one of the things that we see with both students who are struggling as well as with some of my advisees is this sense of isolation and how it's different for online programs versus on-ground face-to-face programs. Now, our online program is a little different than other online programs, and we'll talk a little bit about that later on. However, there is still a sense of isolation even amongst our students. So the big question is, what do you think are the reasons students might feel isolated? And if you are a student currently or have been a student in an online program, I'd love to hear about any personal experiences you might have had with feeling isolated through the process of being an online student. So I'm going to stop sharing so that I can better support our discussion. So who would like to kind of touch base about this a little bit?
I can go with Dr. Crowley.
That would be great. Thank you.
So for me, I was nervous about doing an online program because I didn't want to feel like I was alone. And sitting in my living room, doing discussion posts, responding to peers, interacting with professors, I was afraid that I wouldn't be able to create a bond with anybody. And it was actually at residency that it just all took off. Like everybody just felt like we all connected right away. Like we knew everybody. And then that friendship and networking support has continued to grow. So I don't feel as much isolated anymore as I did initially in the program.
And, I think that's a really good example of one of the ways that the on-ground programs are different. It was like once you got that true, in-person, three-dimensional experience with one another, then the relationships were kind of solidified and you were able to carry them on through the remainder of the program. But up until the point of residency, you feel a little isolated. You feel a little kind of out there on your own. And so certainly programs that are fully online who don't have that residency component are going to be different than programs that have a residency component. But I think that kind of speaks to why face-to-face in-person three-dimensional programs don't necessarily have the same challenges that online programs do with isolation. So thank you. Does anybody else want to kind of chime in? Yes.
Yes, it's Dr. Crowley.
Crowley, yes.
Crowley, thank you.
Yes.
Okay. So I teach at University of the Cumberlands and we're fully online. I think the difference is, and I've taught at Walden in the past, I think the difference for some of the programs is asynchronous versus synchronous as well. So our classes we are synchronous fully. We have a discussion board clearly, but we meet weekly. And I think that makes a big difference where you can, as a faculty, see your students, and then students can see each other and communicate that way. I think that's a big piece too. When I hear some complaints from students who have gone to asynchronous schools before, and as a counseling program, that's really hard for me to comprehend how we aren't watching or looking at people. So.
Absolutely. And that's a great example, and I appreciate you sharing that, Dr. Darby, because the school I adjunct for is a fully online program as well. There is no required synchronous component, though I, as an instructor, value it so much I offer it. It is not well attended. And I even offer supervision at this school, and there is not a synchronous component to it.
Wow.
It is undergraduate. It's undergraduate.
Oh, okay.
Undergraduate. Yeah.
Okay.
And so we've been in talks because they actually just recently implemented the internship as a requirement. It used to be an option. About how to kind of restructure the internship component of the program. But it definitely is different when you don't have that synchronous opportunity to even so much as engage on video with your students. And I'll have students reach out to me and ask me for letters of recommendation. And I'm like, I wouldn't know this person if I passed them on the street. And yet, I understand the importance of those letters of recommendation, but the synchronous component is kind of that baby step between having no physical eyes on in any capacity versus a fully on-ground program where you see your students every single week in the hallway on nights you don't have classes. Things of that nature. So a really great example, and I love hearing about programs with a synchronous component. So again, I'll talk a little bit about kind of our program and our structure in a little bit. It looks like there's a comment in the chat. So I believe it's Dion. If I pronounced that incorrectly, I do apologize. I deal with isolation because I prefer face-to-face communication when engaging in academic conversations. The discussion board can be exhausting exercise rather than enlightening. Yeah, absolutely. So you feel like you're talking to a screen. You're just kind of typing out responses, and there might be something back, but it's depersonalized because it's in written form. So there's definitely that component of, am I really communicating with individuals, with humans? Is it a computerized response here? How thoughtful is it? And I think that as Hannah said, it's a little different when you've been to residency and you actually can put names and faces together, so that when you're in future classes, you have the opportunity to engage and kind of envision the person on the other end of that. And so I think that is a helpful component. So Dan, I wonder, in feeling that sense of isolation, if you could let us know if there was a synchronous component at all, if you were engaging in that face-to-face time even on camera, or if it was fully disconnected and asynchronous. I'm gonna hope Dion's typing that out for us. While she's working on that, anyone else have any experiences? Oh, yeah, she's had blended. Okay. So, and that's what our program here at the Chicago School CMHC Online is. It is considered a blended program. And so it does offer both face-to-face at your 2 residencies, as well as a synchronous component to every single class that we teach. And many classes have multiple synchronous opportunities, though at a very minimum there's one. One of the big things that our program does that's a little different than some programs is we have so many outside of class opportunities for synchronous engagement. This virtual conference being one of them. Here we are in various states and various time zones and meeting as if we were in a conference room. So, this is definitely one way in which our department works really hard to make those connections. We also offer town hall meetings once a term, which is an opportunity for our entire department to come together in a meeting. We generally have a guest speaker. It's a topic that we bring up related to either going-ons in the program, or when we're preparing for residencies, or as we were preparing a few years ago for our K-CREPT site visit. And we are able to kind of see lots of our students, lots of our faculty all in one place. And so we do that once a term. And then we have, of course, our supervision groups are conducted synchronously each week. Advisors meet with their advisees once a term, and we do that synchronously. We schedule Zoom meetings, sometimes in small groups, sometimes individually, which is a wonderful opportunity to really begin building those relationships with our advisees as well. And then we also have some student groups that meet, and they meet in video. And you know, it's really interesting to me how integrated the idea of video is to our program, which we'll talk a little bit more about the use of technology to combat this isolation, because it's very, very common to hear amongst students, between students and faculty, and amongst faculty, that we'll be like, hey, I need to ask you something or talk to you about something. Let's jump in a Zoom meeting. So it's not a phone call, it's not an email, it's just so much easier to jump into a Zoom meeting. As a matter of fact, I was emailing a student yesterday and had some questions for her, and you know, she was like, yeah, as soon as I get home from work, I'll get back to you on this. I said, how about we just jump into a Zoom meeting? This might just be easier to have as a conversation. She was like, sure, as soon as I get home, I'll let you know. And we were able to meet, and just kind of within 15 minutes, we got it all worked out, which could have been 8 or 10 emails back and forth. And we were just kind of able to make that few minutes of connection, but also to resolve some of the questions that I had. So it's just a really great opportunity when we utilize any chance we might have for some synchronous engagement. Anyone else have some experiences with feeling isolated, or any ideas about why students might feel isolated? It's early. Everyone's quiet. Make sure you've had your coffee. I'm still having one.
I'll talk again.
Sure.
As a professor and in this method, I totally understand the silence, and it drives me nuts. So I don't want you to be silent, have so much silence. But I think that because we also service students who are global, and so they're in different time zones, that also makes them a little isolated. Like I had a student who was in Israel. My class was at 8 p.m. Eastern time, but over there it was like 3 o'clock in the morning. So he was like literally the only person up in his house and actually having to be engaged in class. So sometimes that creates kind of barriers for students. And then if you have other students who are in different places, and if they wanted to do like group work, they'd have to coordinate that. So that creates some isolation as well.
Well, you're just stealing my presentation.
I'm sorry. I'm be quiet. I'm be quiet.
Don't be quiet. Don't be quiet. No, this is terrific. This is terrific. So, but that is one of the things we're going to talk about, is the geographical location and how that can certainly be a barrier. This morning, before I was getting ready for the presentation, I was meeting with one of our students who is in Arizona, so 3 hours time zone difference, and was trying to catch her before she left for work in the morning. And so while it wasn't super early for me here on the East Coast, it's that willingness for her to get up a few minutes early to meet with me before she goes to work. Or, I think it was last Friday night, I think it was, at 10 o'clock my time, I was meeting with a student in Alaska, because she was getting home from work. And so it takes that flexibility for both faculty and students to really find the middle ground of where to meet. We have international students in our program as well, and we work really hard to accommodate time zones the best we can, but we span 10 time zones with our current student enrollment. And that can be difficult to do when you're trying to accommodate 10 different time zones. So, unfortunately, we have some of those outliers, and it takes a bit of finagling on their part to make the schedule work. So any other feedback on, why students might feel isolated before we move on? I want to make sure everybody gets time to talk. Oh, looks like we have another comment. The disconnect is definitely there. Fully online programs, although convenient, should incorporate online meetings weekly. I've enjoyed it with Zoom in my courses. Absolutely. Yeah. You know, and I know that there's some individuals that might be okay with not feeling connected. That, you know, it's either a time issue, a location issue, a personality, whatever it might be. But I, like Dr. Darby, find it kind of interesting that in the field of counseling, where we're teaching you to be connected, that a program can fully engage disconnected. Like I really struggle with that sometimes. And, you know, that's as an online educator. And, you know, I really feel like the connectedness is important. So I do wonder about those programs that don't have synchronous components and how, you know, it does work when we're training individuals to become connectors in their positions. If this was like a marketing program, maybe it would be a little different. But, you know, this is counseling. So, all right, so let me get back to my presentation. All right. So today we are going to cover some significant contributors to feelings of isolation. And you guys have done a really good job of kind of bringing up what most of those are. But we will review them a little bit and kind of talk about their impacts on students and how it's felt. We're also going to talk a little bit about the benefits of feeling connected and benefits for the school, benefits for our peers, our faculties, and benefits for us to all of those different relationships. You know, it's, I think the little snippet for this presentation said something about like, gone are the days of pep rallies and wearing school colors. And so a few years ago when I got hired by the Chicago school, one of the first things my children asked me was, "Mom, when are we going to get swag from your school?" And I was like, well, I mean, yeah, we have a little bit of that, but it's just not quite the same. And so it was really kind of a shift for them to like realize that, oh, so you don't have, you know, all of the, here in Florida, of course, college rivalries are a big thing. So everybody's wearing FSU stuff or Gators stuff, or, you know, and it's like, yeah, the Chicago school doesn't have that. So, you know, we can get you a t-shirt, but, you know, there's not a whole lot more beyond that. So we're going to talk a little bit about how to get connected as students, why it's important for online learners. Their experience is so often fragmented, disconnected, and leaves them feeling isolated. So we really do want to talk about how to get connected and why it's so important for students to be connected in these programs. All right, so starting with some significant contributors to feelings of isolation. And, you know, Dr. Darby, this is where you kind of talked about geographical location. You can see that's on my list there. So, you know, we'll definitely get to that. So the first one here is learning style. And so each student has their own learning style. And for online learners, this can be different than the individuals in a traditional classroom. Many online learners are used to kind of operating separate from others and from the course itself. And so if their learning style is, you know, I do little bits here and there, or I cram it all into one day, maybe they have to balance, you know, like my doctorate program was a blended program. And I can recall, because I started my doctorate when the twins were 18-ish months, maybe 19 months, you know, working on schoolwork with at least one baby sitting in my lap. You know, it's like not really going to do that in a classroom setting. So while not the primary learning style, I am a visual learner. And so for me, being able to read information before wanting to discuss it is kind of ideal for my learning style. So, you know, students who in these online programs that are asked to read and then participate in a discussion, that would work well for me and my learning style. But for students who are more auditory learners, they kind of miss out on the oral part. They're not getting the engagement, the discussion orally. And certainly for kinesthetic learners, tactile learners, this can be really difficult too, because we don't even have paper books anymore. Like, we utilize ebooks. And so, gone are the days of, my nice highlighter and getting out and highlighting things in my textbook and then getting upset because I go to sell it back to the bookstore and they don't want to buy it because it's all marked up. But, really being able to engage even with a book, a physical book is gone. And so our learning style has to kind of fit for the online platform, or we then are left feeling that we are more isolated because we're trying to mold ourselves to fit the online platform. And that doesn't always work for different learners. The next one is age. So online learners are statistically older than traditional school students, and they're balancing multiple life responsibilities. Typically this is second career choice, or they put off college to start families, and now they're coming back to school. And in those situations, connection may not be the top thing on their mind. They might feel already grounded in their family of origin, their family within their home. They might already have their friends. And so school might be more like an extension of a job. It's a task to complete, not a place to build relationships. And so we have to take that into consideration as well, is that can contribute to feeling isolated, again, either by choice or by circumstance for the students that we serve in the online learning field. Now, those statistics have dropped slightly in recent years, and I anticipate they'll continue to drop a little bit as online learning platforms become more natural, normal, and accepted across higher education. So even programs with on-ground components are adding in online classes and online options. So we're seeing more and more online learning opportunities and experiences for students. Another one is the area of concentration or major. So again, if we kind of step outside of the counseling itself, some programs focus on data, research, and core information, and then others, like ours, have a component of relational connectedness. So, knowing that some programs with online, if you're just crunching numbers, putting together marketing material, it might work better for students, and they might not desire that connectedness in an online learning platform. Whereas in a program such as ours, our students are looking to become helping professionals. They're looking to build those relationships, and they want to model what they'll be doing with clients within the classroom. And so the face-to-face time is really important. That feeling connected is really important. So we also have on here the amount of face-to-face interaction. Again, something Dr. Darby had brought up earlier, as well as one of our students in the room, was that, it's the amount of time that individuals have face-to-face with others can increase their or can decrease their feelings of isolation. So, seeing someone in a classroom for 3 hours a week is a little different than seeing them on camera for an hour a week. But seeing them on camera an hour a week is different than not seeing them at all. So studies have shown that the more face-to-face interaction a program has, even if the interaction is through video, but in real time, so synchronous, the more connected students feel to their schools, the others that they meet with in the synchronous situations, as well as their instructors. It also increases the likelihood of students reaching out to instructors for assistance. So if students feel disconnected from their faculty members, they may not feel like they can come forward with questions. They're less likely to feel comfortable asking for clarification, which is different than if we were on an on-ground program, where you could stop by the professor's office during office hours and ask questions about assignments or grades or upcoming projects. Online recorded videos do help to increase the connectedness by personalizing the message that's being sent. So faculty members who record introductions, I work really hard to record at least one video feedback on an assignment each term, and a couple times a term I provide audio feedback. So it's not just a written response in the gradebook or track changes on a paper. And so I try to keep things personal even in the grading experience. for my students to let them know that I am engaging with them as much as I can, given the capacity of, being online. Now, oftentimes I will choose to do audio over video because I may be grading at 10 o'clock at night. I want to save them from having to see me on camera at 10 o'clock at night. But other times, especially on big projects, I really like to give them the privilege of video feedback. And so, I will review their paper while I'm recording myself so that they can kind of walk through it with me, and have the video for their reflection of their assignment. The next one on our list is student schedules. And this is one of the most significant factors that contributes to feelings of isolation. Students are busy, they live in different time zones, they're trying to fit school in between work and home life. Sometimes they're even trying to add internship experiences in there. And their family doesn't always seem to understand why their schedule isn't flexible. Why, if you go to an online school, you can't just do your work when you want to. Why there are certain due dates and certainly synchronous components. And so we're finding that some students even feel like they can't talk to their families about school anymore because their families don't seem to get it. So now they're feeling isolated from school, but they're also feeling a sense of isolation from their families. So that's compounding those feelings of isolation. So that's why it comes up as one of the most significant contributors. Another significant contributor is the geographical location. So many individuals rely on in-person interactions to build relationships and connections, but with online learning, students and faculty are located across the globe. So this type of interaction can be impossible. Gone are the days of coming to campus early and staying after class late to work on group projects. We're not just hanging out and chatting in the hallways. Faculty members are no longer in physical offices where they can drop by and talk to one another or go grab coffee between classes. So the geographical location can be a huge barrier for students in that they do have to battle time zones. They do have to figure out times when everyone can get together and work on group projects. They do have to figure out how they can connect with faculty, students, activities, when they're also trying to, again, fit it between work and school and field work. And so it can be a difficulty versus if they're required to go to campus for class. So geographical location does come up as one of those most significant contributors. All right, so moving on to benefits of feeling connected. The first one there you'll see is Maslow. So Maslow's hierarchy of needs, if you guys remember that from some of your training, is, a basic need, love and belonging. We all want to feel connected and we want to feel connected to others. So that certainly is going to fall under one of the benefits of feeling connected as we're meeting some of our core needs. A fulfilled purpose. So you're working towards developing yourself as a counselor, and counseling is rooted in connectedness and relationships. So feeling connected to your peers, your faculty, and your school is helping to fulfill that purpose. Professional identity. Building up your own identity as a professional counselor is rooted in how you view yourself and your contributions to the field of counseling. This includes valuing your education and those you're sharing your time with. So if we look at our classwork as just a task to complete, how much value are we really putting into the work that we're doing? Collegiality, so relationships with peers can be more genuine, especially when we feel connected to them. We're not just being nice on a discussion board or message board, but we're actually purposely reaching out and asking them how they're doing. We're asking them how recent events, vacations, we've certainly had children, or we've had students who've had children in the program, gotten married in the program, and it's great to see that, some of their classmates will ask them how these things are going. Next is support. Your peers are your support. So when it comes to students, your peers are the ones that are living it with you every single day. They get it because they're living it. And so really having the support of one another as you go through the program, but also looking to those students in cohorts ahead and cohorts behind is really important. So when looking to cohorts ahead, you're going to be able to talk to students who've kind of been there, done that, and may be able to offer support and guidance. And then in reverse, you are helping those cohorts behind you that are coming up and kind of giving them that advice. We model this with the Residency 1, Residency 2 buddies when we attend residencies in person. We really try to connect those students in Residency 2 with a student in Residency 1 so they can continue to feel connected to not only each other in the program, but this whole process of mentoring one another. Improved mental well-being. So lots of studies are showing that students who feel like they have a purpose, who feel connected to others, they show lower rates of depression and anxiety. You know, and of course in our field, that's really important. We want our helping professionals to be healthy. So, you know, when we're feeling isolated, we're more likely to feel depressed and anxious. We're more likely to worry about our assignments and our grades and due dates. We're more likely to feel separated from one another, like we're all alone, no one understands. And so being able to be connected to one another is going to help improve our mental well-being. That also taps back into Maslow as well. Higher achievement. Studies are showing that students who feel connected do better in their classes and they retain more information. They're engaging in more genuine discussion. They're opening themselves up and being vulnerable. They're acknowledging their areas of weakness, things they need to grow in. And so we're finding that not only are their grades improving, but on exit exams, they're retaining more information. So again, feelings of connectedness all through the program, but can also carry all the way through to your professional career. And the last one here on our list is long-term professional connections. So for students, your peers are your future colleagues, and your faculty could one day be a potential employer or perhaps put you in contact with others in the field. You don't want to ever underestimate the power of networking. You don't want to ever underestimate the power of those relationships. And let me tell you, when we go to conferences, it's like going home. It's so wonderful to see our friends, to see our colleagues, to watch them present, to present with them. And so this is what continuing to build those professional connections is all about. Any students that have worked with me for a period of time get the opportunity to hear my stories about how networking has benefited me throughout the years. Everything from being appointed by Governor Rendell to the state licensing board in Pennsylvania, where I served for 4 years, all the way to even being hired by the Chicago School. And my first position within the Chicago School was as a subject matter expert. I wrote the addictions class in our program. And I was given that opportunity because someone knew someone who knew someone. And they were like, hey, we know this addiction specialist, and I think she would be great at writing this class. Writing a class led to an adjunct position, which led to a full-time faculty position. So you never want to underestimate the power of feeling connected. And these individuals that you're in classes with now will be your colleagues in just a very few short years. All right, so how do we get connected? So the first thing is, it starts with you, the student, all right? Students have a responsibility in being connected. And so in order to be connected, you have to reach out. You have to speak up. You need to ask questions. You need to make appointments. You need to look for those with similar interests. Anyone who was on the call at the beginning, or sorry, in the workshop at the beginning, actually heard a student talking to me about scheduling an appointment. And that's exactly what this is about. You know, she's asking for an appointment. Can't wait to meet with her. We have some advising work that we need to do. So this is what your responsibility as a student is to speak up. We don't see you in the hallways anymore, so we don't know if you're struggling. We don't know if, you know, you're walking a little slower than you used to because you're feeling a little down. So we really rely on students to be able to self-advocate in this way. You need to engage. You need to participate more than just the minimum. You know, sometimes we have rough weeks and we can only get those 2 peer responses in. But if you have the time, you know, participate more. Your name will begin to be recognized by your peers, and it's more likely to lead to further engagement. They're more likely to respond to you, and then we can get the back and forth discussions going, which is what we would have if we were in a classroom. So doing your best to engage more than just the minimum required to get the passing grade. Attend optional meetings and courses. So as I said earlier, all of our courses have one required synchronous component, and then we have some optional requirements. I'm sorry, that doesn't make sense. Some optional opportunities for participating in synchronous meetings. And so it's really encouraged for students to participate in as many of these as they can. It'll allow them to engage with more peers and more faculty and help them to feel more connected. Now, yes, we know these are optional, but part of engagement is the active work on your part to be connected. And being connected does mean having to participate in meetings and discussion boards a little bit more than just what is absolutely required. Attend all of your advising meetings. It's a great way to form a relationship with your advisor. And sometimes your advisor will host group advising, which also then gets you in touch with your peers too. Advising relationships may be some of the most powerful and mentor type relationships you'll have in your program. Advisors are there to support you, to answer questions, to guide you along in your program. And we are available for students. It's the students who seem to try to skirt around advising that when they need advisors, they're realizing that, oh my goodness, I haven't met with my advisor in 2 terms. And it's like, yeah, you know, we're here. We're trying our best to meet with you as much as we can. So make sure you are scheduling those appointments and going to them. Seek out mentorship. Do you feel like you just seem to connect with one of your faculty members? Maybe they have an area of specialty that you're interested in. Don't hesitate to stay in touch, to reach out, to ask questions, and to even ask for mentorship. We were where you are. You know, as professionals in the field, as faculty members, we were students at one point in time. And we know the importance of developing yourself as an individual as well as a professional. And there's no harm in asking for some mentorship. There's no harm in asking for some consultation. This is what we are here for. I so enjoy having students who just want to pick my brain about a topic. Or here recently, I actually met with one of our alumni to talk to her about pursuing doctoral programs. And it was just wonderful to have her reach back out and connect with me on that. So realize that that's what we're here for and use that opportunity. Leadership opportunities. Within our department, we do have leadership opportunities. We have GAs, we have student ambassadors, we have our honor society, Theta Chi Sigma. And of course, there's always external opportunities to include like your professional associations. So I work really hard with our students to kind of help them see the importance of feeling connected to our professional associations, even when you're in school. And so I really try to get our students to engage in activities through ACA, through their state counseling associations, to attend conferences. So not only are you building yourself up as a leader, but you're remaining connected to others. And then partner with faculty on departmental projects like this virtual conference I presented yesterday with 2 of our students. We do have a department newsletter as well, so we have lots of opportunities for students to work with faculty on things that'll benefit the department as a whole, and of course research. All of the faculty members are working on some kind of research. You know, we're doing something, and if you know that you have an area of interest similar to ours, ask if you can jump on board, ask if you can help out. I work with 2 of our students on different research projects, and I love it. I love the opportunity to meet with them. I love the opportunity to help them learn about research, about writing for publication, and it's helping to develop them as a professional counselor. You can always go into our advising forum and review the faculty bios to see what faculty members are researching or interested in if you're not sure. And then just reach out. Touch base with us, let us know who you are, let us know what your interests are. Faculty really do enjoy working with students on projects. All right, so using technology to connect, not disconnect. So one of the things that has happened in our society is technology has allowed us to be more disconnected from one another. You know, my nephew, who lived with me for the majority of his life, would text me from his upstairs bedroom. I'm like, come on, you could just walk down the hall and even yell over the banister at me. But, you know, he would text from the bedroom, is dinner ready yet? You know, I see people texting each other and they're sitting on the same couch. You know, we're not even really picking up the phone and calling people anymore. You know, we might FaceTime them, but typically if we have a question, we just text it and wait for the answer. So technology, while super convenient, has led to disconnect. However, in an online program, we need to look at technology as a way to connect us, not disconnect us. So while it allows us to be physically disconnected, we still can connect with one another socially, emotionally, and relationally. Social media, we know that students are active with their cohorts and their groups on social media, and that's great when used appropriately. Things like Facebook and Snapchat, Twitter and Instagram. In preparation for this presentation, I even read a very interesting study on how instructors were using Twitter to keep students reminded of due dates for projects and to prepare them for discussions in classes. And I thought that's really neat. You know, here's a way to utilize technology that students are already engaging with, but to integrate it into your course. I don't Twitter, so I don't do it, but I can certainly see how somebody who might be active on Twitter would find that super helpful. We also have lots of opportunities, as I said earlier, for the video conferences and chats. And so, you know, we like to meet with one another. We like to have these face-to-face discussions, and students can do that with one another. So I remind students of this all the time. I'm like, you know, you can type out an email to your friend in class, or you can say, hey, let's jump in a Zoom meeting and talk. You know, if this is a person that you would invite out for coffee, why don't you invite them to meet with you in Zoom and pick up your cup of coffee and drink coffee while you chat? So, you know, we can still use these video platforms much like we would in person. We just have to actively do it. And it's interesting to me when I bring that up and individuals are like, well, I never even thought about it. Never even crossed my mind. So, you know, I know as a faculty member, I make it a point to connect with my other faculty members by scheduling hangout times. And, you know, depending on who they are and what time zone they're in and their availability, you know, we might have coffee in the morning. We have 2 faculty members that meet up in the mornings and exercise together through Zoom. And, you know, one's walking on a treadmill. I don't know what the other one does, but I think yoga. And they just kind of chat while the Zoom meeting's open as if they were in an exercise class together. And I thought, how cool is that? You know, if you would attend an exercise class together, why not exercise on your own and just turn on the Zoom meeting? So remember that the platform's there. It's available to you to use. You don't have to wait for scheduled meetings or classes, that you can actually connect with one another, even if it is just for a few minutes to chat. Residency preparation. You know, we can use technology. We do a little bit in the advising forum by giving information out about residency. I like to host advising sessions that are specific to residency preparation. So for students who maybe are going to their first residency to answer questions, or I might even have one of my students who's been to residency before host it for me. And that way they can connect with one another and get some answers from students who've kind of been through it before and answer those questions about residency. It's also a good way to prepare us for seeing each other in person at residency, because there's a lot of anxiety around, oh, I've only talked to this person on the discussion board and now I have to see them in person. And so it can kind of quell some of those anxieties. Of course, I mentioned earlier, we have our town hall meetings. These are a great way to connect an entire department of faculty, administration, and students all at one time. Our town hall meetings are fairly well attended. We get about a quarter of our students attending them, and at sometimes more, sometimes a little less, it just depends. The Theta Chi Sigma is our Student Honor Society, and we have an executive board meeting once a month, and then we have a membership meeting once a month. And so these are opportunities for students to come together. While I am the chapter faculty advisor, it is still a student-led group. So it's a great opportunity to engage with your students, your fellow students who are in leadership positions, learn more about the field, learn more about Chi Sigma Iota, and opportunities to develop yourself even professionally. I kind of already mentioned the virtual coffee, but something to keep in the back of your mind is, would I like to have coffee with one of my peers or even one of my faculty members? Small group discussions. You can ask some of your classmates to get together to talk about some assignments in class, to create some small groups, to study together. And so again, all of these opportunities are there. There are group chats within the Canvas classrooms, but also you can, and I think I mentioned it later on, there's a couple of group apps that you can use to kind of participate in some discussions. There's also reminder apps you can use if you're working on a group project to keep everybody kind of abreast of the due dates for your group project or pieces of your group project, and send out those little encouraging reminders to one another. So these apps are there, they're available, you can use them to help you stay connected to your peers. We recommend that you stay in, that you engage with a variety of peers. So not just one or two peers all the time, but that you really utilize the opportunities to engage with a variety of your classmates. Again, make sure that your posts are more than just what you need for grading. Respond to responses. So when you think about, your peers who might respond to you, you can respond back. I've seen some really good back and forth dialogue between students in some of my classes, and I love to see that. This is what I would see if we were in the classroom. So I just really enjoy seeing it on the discussion board as well. You can use things like group apps and reminder apps to help you and your peers. You can use hashtags. If you think about when you're posting on social media, using hashtags such as the TCSPP or the Pounds CMHC Online or Pound Residency 2019. And that way individuals can search for your hashtag and find someone who's participating in the same activity at the same time. So again, just using technology that we're already using, but connecting it to us in our program. You can record yourself as responses in your course introductions. A lot of students kind of do this copy-paste course introduction thing, and I know it's super convenient, but how cool would it be if we started to record videos and we introduced ourselves on video from day one? And we could start feeling more connected to our peers that way. Faculty members do it, and we would really like to see students doing it more. And then seeing one another on video really personalizes the message. So it's not just, reading what someone has written, especially if you've had a few classes with them. You might realize that they are copying and pasting their introduction from their last class. But being able to see them on video and kind of get an update from them always helps us to feel a little bit more connected to them and what they have going on. All right. So that is it for the presentation, and we have some time for some questions and further discussion. So if there are anybody that wants to add questions or ask me questions or just kind of participate in the discussion, I'd love to hear from you guys.
So Dr. Crowley, a little while back, Jennifer had said sometimes you can read the wrong meaning in a text and the face-to-face, it actually goes a little quicker.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think even when I counsel, I talk a lot to clients about how much communication is lost in written form. So be it text, be it email, we lose the facial expressions, the nonverbal, the enunciations. And so being able to even just hear it through video, see it through video, is going to give it so much more meaning than when we're trying to infer meaning in an email or a text message. And, what has happened, and we work with our students fairly regularly on this, is we've gotten so used to just shooting off responses that we've kind of forgotten what professional communication looks like. And so, learning to structure emails, learning that it's not appropriate to just shoot off a shorthand text to your professor is part of kind of using technology appropriately, but making sure that we are utilizing technology. So certainly that face-to-face is going to assure that our message is, it won't assure, it will increase the potential for our message to be received the way it is intended. I see someone says we need more school swag. I totally agree. Yeah, we definitely need more school swag. I've found just a few random things like a lanyard and a notebook. Actually, I have a notebook here on my desk. But yeah, we do. We need sweatshirts, hoodies. We need some T-shirts. You know what else they didn't have? They didn't have onesies. And I thought that would have been really cute when my last child was born, was to have a Chicago school onesie on him because he was 2 months old at summer residency. So I thought that would have been really adorable. But Dr. Darby, I just don't want to enable students too much. They have responsibilities as well. So it's a fine line. Yeah, it is. It's an absolutely fine line. We want to be present. We want to engage with our students, but we also don't want to handhold. We do have to release them out into the professional world. And as an employer, as a counselor, I know that you're not going to have that kind of treatment in this field. When you get to field work, if you're not already there, you're going to learn that you're expected to have your paperwork done on time, that you are expected to have your billing done on time. And if it's not, there's penalties. You have reports to write for court. You have treatment plans that need to go in files. And missing any of that does result in potential fines for your agency, especially if they bill to like Medicaid or third-party insurers.
Yeah,
So,
well, and you don't get a lot of reminders. Like that's
no.
your job expectations. So you won't get Twitter reminders, and
Right.
So I get, on one hand, yes, we're trying to help them, but we just have to make sure we don't go too far with it.
True. Absolutely.
I have a question, Dr. Crowley.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, I attended the talk by Dr. Butler yesterday, and he talked about, having a mentor and getting a mentor. And I see that that's a common theme in your talk today too. But the thing is that I want to do research because I have multiple topics in my head that I like to research. But the unfortunate thing is that I don't think I have time. So it's like, but I still want to connect with faculty. So is it okay to have, I hate to say a friend relationship because that's just it just creeps me out a little bit, but is it okay to just develop just a check-in relationship with a professor or something like that? Is that appropriate? So
Absolutely. We have students who I do that with. I have one I meet with once a month. And she and I just connected well in a class. She really felt like, I pushed her when I needed to push her, and she was able to open up. And because of that, we just like to kind of check in, and I encourage her along the way, and I remind her that, she can make it. Much like I would if we were friends, but no, we're certainly not going shopping together or anything like that.
Right. Yeah. That's what I was concerned about, because it's like, you don't want to cross a boundary, but it's like, if you still need somebody you want to check in with from time to time, I was just wondering if that was still okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And, and we as faculty members, we have boundaries we need to hold to. And, that's our responsibility. That's what we'll take care of is, we'll let you know what's appropriate and not appropriate.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I see one more question. How do you become a part of it? Can you...
I think she was referring to Theta Chi Sigma.
Oh, well, then you can talk about that.
Sure. It's so I'm trying to think of how I got involved. I received an email from Dr. LA
Yep.
wanting to know if I wanted to join. And I filled out the application, and then I was accepted, and then I was initiated. I know that the GPA is important, I think. And then from there, it's led me to a leadership opportunity to be the chair of the bylaws committee. So it's just been a great opportunity.
Absolutely. So yeah, once you join, we don't let you go. We get you involved. We have to have our students involved.
Even more.
Yeah, we pull you in. So yeah, really, once you are offered the opportunity to join, you have to have 9 completed credits and a GPA of 3.5. Then you are asked to join. You go through initiation, and then from there, you just start attending meetings, and we start pulling you in, and then you can be active with our activities. So any other questions before we wrap up today? No? Okay. Well, I would like to thank you all for joining me. It was wonderful to see you here. I hope that you benefited from our talk today. Please feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions or concerns. Otherwise, I hope that you have a terrific rest of your day.
Thank you, Dr. Crowley.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Keisha, are you the next room monitor?
I am.
Okay, I'm going to make you the host.
Alrighty.